Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Beth and Rip's Yellowstone spinoff is actually bad news for the couple. Beth and Rip's Yellowstone story continuing in their own spinoff could prove bad news for the couple. Kelly Reilly and Cole Hauser's Beth and Rip characters are a staple of the Yellowstone cast, emerging as the leads of the neo-western after Kevin Costner's Yellowstone exit. Since day one, Beth and Rip have been with us, fighting alongside John Dutton as his most loyal stewards. After John Dutton's death, just days before the Yellowstone Season 5 finale, a report prematurely confirmed that Beth and Rip's story would continue, with Reilly and Hauser leading an offshoot of the flagship. The ending of Yellowstone Season 5 allowed Beth and Rip to move on from protecting John Dutton's legacy when Case sold the family's heirloom ranch to the Broken Rock tribe. With the Duttons fulfilling a forgotten promise, Case and Beth stepped away from their family's 7-generation homestead and moved on, respectively. Case settled at East Camp with Tate and Monica near the reservation, and Beth and Rip also started a new beginning that included their adopted son, Carter. Now that the Lovebird story will continue outside the flagship, there's one thing we know for sure about what's next for them. In Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 14, Beth tells her husband that she bought a ranch in Dillon, Montana. Beth notes that the little house and big barn are why she chose the homestead, noting its irrigated hay meadows where Rip can earn a living managing about 600 pairs of cattle. The end of the episode shows Beth and Rip moving onto their new ranch satisfyingly, with Beth looking out across its thousands of acres into the mountains. If Beth and Rip's story ended with the Yellowstone Season 5 finale, their lives would forever be frozen at that moment in time. Therefore, if Yellowstone ended with that scene of Beth, Rip, and Carter, it would preserve the family's happily hard-earned ever after. While Rip notes that the ranch, located 40 miles west of Dillon, won't be very active, Beth notes that the property's isolation aligns with her desire to live without tourists wandering in and out of her life. Lloyd notes that the area Beth chose for their homestead experiences brutal winters and bug-infested summers, but perhaps we could imagine that Beth will get an expensive fur coat and somehow outsmart the bugs like she's outsmarted everyone else. Beth and Rip's story continuation will inevitably disrupt the family's happy ending, considering they will need to experience some form of conflict to tell a compelling story. The continuation of the characters means that Beth and Rip will face new hardships, which will likely extend beyond the harsh winters and frustrating summers they endure. While the new Dutton-Wheeler Ranch pales compared to the Yellowstone, which comprises hundreds of thousands of acres, Beth and Rip maintaining 7,000 acres of private land and 20,000 acres of BLM land will come with corresponding hurdles. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Yellowstone executive producer Christina Voros confirmed that Beth and Rip's story could be bad news for the couple, saying, Voros' comments imply that Beth and Rip's complex backgrounds may complicate the simplicity of their future, suggesting that happily ever after is a simplified notion for characters like Beth and Rip. Voros directly implied that Beth and Rip's Yellowstone story could be the beginning of another Dutton tragedy. Her take on the couple's Yellowstone fate is that Yellowstone screenwriter Taylor Sheridan set up Beth and Rip's conclusion so that their story could go in either direction, equally inclined to evolve into a fairy tale as it is to end in disaster. There's no doubt that the couple share a deep love for one another, but Voros' comments insinuate Beth and Rip's spin-off story could test their marriage. It's worth considering that Beth and Rip have always existed on the ranch with a common enemy, fighting for the fate of the Dutton legacy side by side. Without a common enemy to attack, one has to wonder where Beth and Rip will channel the chaotic energy that embroils their experience, especially since the Yellowstone Season 5 finale suggested the land in Dillon, Montana wouldn't be kind to the couple, adding stress to their situation. Voros noted dark secrets in her comments, which could hint at Beth keeping Rip in the dark about aborting their pregnancy when they were adolescents. Rip knows that Beth is infertile, but the couple has yet to process the trauma of why that happened together. Still, while new experiences could drive a wedge between them, it's difficult to imagine an ending to Beth and Rip's story in which the couple separates voluntarily, especially considering Sheridan's history of penning indelible power couples for Yellowstone. That said, Voro's comments suggest tragedy could follow the couple regardless. Beth Dutton and Rip Wheeler have become one of the most iconic duos in the Yellowstone universe. Their relationship, tumultuous yet deeply passionate, has captured the hearts of fans. However, with the news of a potential Yellowstone spin-off centered on the couple, there's reason for concern. While their love story is compelling and gripping on screen, the reality of a spin-off could pose significant challenges for their dynamic, potentially even creating more problems than it solves. The first and most obvious issue is that a spin-off could overexpose the couple. One of the best things about Beth and Rip's relationship in Yellowstone is how it exists in the shadows of the larger, chaotic world of the Dutton family and the ranch. The rare moments of intimacy between them are more meaningful precisely because they are few and far between. There's a certain allure to their relationship when it's allowed to breathe in the background, rarely front and center. In a spin-off, that dynamic would likely be disrupted, forcing the couple to navigate challenges and conflicts in a more public and often overexposed manner. Beth, in particular, thrives in the high-stakes, high-energy world of Yellowstone, where her sharp wit and ruthless nature keep everyone, especially her family, on their toes. She's a powerhouse in her own right, but her relationship with Rip gives her a vulnerability that adds depth to her character. The beauty of their dynamic is that Rip serves as her emotional anchor, but their bond is also characterized by unspoken understanding, a shared history, and mutual respect. A spin-off risks boiling this relationship down to its most basic and cliched elements, risking the loss of the nuanced complexity that has made them such a compelling pair. The shift in setting would also require Beth and Rip to confront new circumstances and characters, which could further threaten the integrity of their relationship. Beth's fiery temper and manipulative tendencies are already a source of conflict with almost every character in Yellowstone, and it's easy to imagine her becoming even more emboldened in a spin-off, where she's forced to take the reins and control her own narrative. Rip, on the other hand, is the calm to her storm, but he's also been shown to have his limits. A series solely focused on them would have to show them as more than just a couple. Their individual arcs would inevitably be intertwined, leading to potential clashes that might strain their bond rather than enhance it. Another challenge to consider is the potential for Rip's character to be diminished in the spinoff. On Yellowstone, Rip is the loyal cowboy who puts the Duttons above all else, a man of few words and even fewer complaints. However, much of his power comes from the way he complements Beth's larger-than-life personality. In a spinoff, the writers may feel the need to create more conflict for Rip, which could end up reshaping his character in a way that feels unnatural. If Rip becomes too involved in the drama or loses his stoic nature in favor of more screen time, it could undermine the quiet strength that fans love about him. Without the constant pressure of the Dutton Ranch and its various political machinations, Rip may end up feeling out of place in a world that revolves entirely around Beth. And then there's the issue of tone. Yellowstone is a gritty, suspense-filled drama that thrives on tension and raw, visceral emotion. But if the spin-off is aimed at exploring Beth and Rip's relationship more intimately, there's a risk that it could become overly melodramatic or even self-indulgent. Fans have always gravitated toward Yellowstone for its tough-as-nails portrayal of life on the ranch, with minimal space for sentimentality. A series centered on Beth and Rip might lean too heavily into the emotional side of their relationship, losing the edge that has made their moments together so electrifying. There's a fine line between romance and melodrama, and if the spin-off strays too far into the latter territory, it could alienate the very fans who have rooted for Beth and Rip from the beginning.